Welcome back to the National University Debate Competition. I'm your host, Robin Mkondiwa. We've had two very exciting debates, and we have yet another that is beckoning right now. Of course, our partners, the Swedish Embassy in Zimbabwe and SAYWHAT, are kindly holding our hands as we hold pertinent discussions with regard to the youth. And today, it is all about the youth. I shall have the Affirmers for the third episode introducing themselves. Can student 1 from the Affirmers please introduce yourself and the program that you're studying?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kudzai Joseph Chokmanyara. I'm a student at Midland State University doing a program in development studies.
And may student 2 from the same introduce herself and the program that she's studying.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Maria McKelvey. I am from Midland State University. I'm studying BSc Sociology.
And now may the first student from the opposers please introduce yourself and the program you're studying.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And my name is Ngoniza Shendoa from Junior University of Technology, studying Bachelor's of Honors degree in Environmental Engineering.
And indeed, the next.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Olin Makoni. I'm studying International Marketing at Junior University of Technology.
Thank you very much. Their topic today shall be Abortion on Demand Agenda, a Sin Undercover. That topic, yet again, Abortion on Demand Agenda, a Sin Undercover. May the affirmative opening speech now be delivered by student number 1. That shall be 3 minutes. You may commence.
Panel, we think from the onset of this debate, we need to understand that the abortion agenda is a pro-life versus pro-choice agenda. And we think in today's debate, what you exclusively get from us as Affirmers is the idea that we think that abortion agenda is pushing forward something that will harm society and harm the same women that we think we are seeking to protect in today's debate. So we think in today's debate, we need to understand that we already have a Termination Act that already caters for women who are raped, women who are endangered by pregnancy, and women who have got pregnancies from incest. So we think in today's debate, we think the agenda is seen undercover because women who are harmed by pregnancy and have pregnancies that are unacceptable are catered for. But firstly, why do we think it's seen undercover? We think firstly, abortion ends life before it even actualizes. We think in today's debate as the Affirmers, we want to protect the right to life of the fetus who has not yet been born but has already been conceived. We think that fetus are already living beings because they have nerves, because they eat food, because they breathe, and we think their right to life is very much important, and we can't allow the right to bodily autonomy of women to oppress the right to life that these fetus have, even though we respect the right to bodily autonomy. We think what it does is that when you end life through abortion, you also deny society of good that can come when you allow someone to live. We think the person that has been conceived in these relationships and these unwanted pregnancies also have potential to be the next best thing in the world. But we think when you allow women to exercise their choice of whether they think it's possible for them to keep the pregnancy or not, you also harm society by denying them the goods that could come with the baby that's coming. But importantly, we think the abortion agenda and the pro-choice agenda also undermine preventative measures that are currently in place that ensure that risky behavior is curbed. We think currently young people in tertiary institutions use condoms. Why? Because they are afraid of getting pregnancy. But we think once you allow them a space in which they can get an abortion anyhow they want, you undermine the use of these contraceptive methods, because at the end of the day, they think we can have unprotected sex and I can still get rid of this pregnancy. Because the truth is they are not so much afraid of STIs because they can be treated, but they are afraid of pregnancies. We think thirdly, the psychological and physical trauma that comes with abortion to women, we think at the end of the day, still harms the same women we are trying to protect. Because when women have consecutive abortions, I think at the end of the day, they grow up to be women who fail to give birth, and the same society that has pro-choice them will still at the end of the day segregate them because they are women who can't produce babies in a context. And we think furthermore, you harm the futures of these women because they live in a context where it is important to also provide children, where it is important. So I think at the end of the day, we think the abortion agenda is seen undercover because of the many harms that we present to you, that it presents to society and the woman herself.
Thank you. The passion, even your partner was looking at you and thinking, good God. Opposers, student number 2, you have 1 minute to cross-examine.
Say, account for the fact that life begins at birth.
Hello, we think life begins when you develop a nervous system, and at 15 days of conception, you already have life because your nerves are already working, and when you're in your mother's womb, you eat. So we think in today's debate, you are living when you're in your mother's womb.
Say, account for the fact that as long as the woman aborts within the safe period of 12 weeks, it's still safe abortion.
We think in today's debate, it's not about safe abortion. It's about ending a life because you think as a woman, you can't progress because of pregnancy. So we think, be it safe or unsafe, we think at the end of the day, we are willing to protect life because life is sacrosanct and important in societies that we exist in.
Say, given a petri dish and a child, one at the left hand and one at both ends, and they are falling simultaneously, you have to pick one. Which one would you pick, sir?
We think in today's debate, what we seek to achieve as affirmative is to safeguard life and give people the chance to actualize and exist.
Time, sir. We shall have the opposer's opening speech by student number 1, and that shall be 3 minutes. You may commence.
Their notion is a poison chalice that we cannot afford to take, lest we can all die from this misinformation, misinterpretation, and misquotation. The need for the removal of the embryo from the uterus, it is an urgent need, a solution at an arm's length. And it is not an evil act, but it is happening not secretly. Ladies and gentlemen, according to the Termination Pregnancy Act, Chapter 15, it states that 70,000 abortions occurs in a year. And according to the Population Reference Bureau, it states that 4 out of 10 pregnancy occurs unintended. And 25% of the 4 out of 10 end up in abortion. And in 2016, 65,000 abortions occur. What am I saying? It's clear, ladies and gentlemen, that is abortion is really on demand. Why? Because ladies requires the solution. In this house, we know that everyone makes a mistake, and given the opportunity of correcting a mistake, everyone wants to correct the mistake. Mind you, point number 1, personhood begins at birth. The personhood begins at birth in the sense that a child is said to be a child when after birth, because a child has got responsibilities and a child is considered under census. But we cannot say that an embryo, it is a child in the sense that it is not even considered by the government as a child and it doesn't have responsibilities. Point number 2, the government allows abortion to occur in the sense of rape, and if the fetus has got abnormalities. Yes, indeed, it is true. It's clear, ladies and gentlemen, that the same way that the government allows abortion to be done to the raped women, it must be the same way the government must allow the person who requires abortion to be done. The same way the government allowed the use of contraceptives, that is DEPO, in 1960. They initiated doctors and expertise in the using of the DEPO provider. That must be the same way the government must initiate doctors who are professional in using who can abort in a safe way. Therefore, in conclusion, we can say we must know that there must be accountability, reliability, agency, and validity. In all this, we are saying abortion, really, women really need to abort, and it is not a sin. For personhood begins after birth, and these are just cluster of cells that need to be removed, and removing them is a solution to the problem. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, with this, I thank you.
Wow. And we thought Temba Mliswa was a handful. Yeah. And we'll have the affirmative cross-examination by student number 2, and that shall be a minute.
Do you believe there is a difference between preventable measures and reactive measures?
Yes, I do believe.
So is abortion a preventative measure or a reactive measure?
It is a preventative measure.
How?
We are saying by aborting, you're preventing the unwanted. You do not want what you don't want. For you have to give birth. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to understand that birth must be a choice. You have to choose to have a child. For if you doesn't choose, it becomes a problem. Those are the kids that end up being the street kids, being the thieves inside the world. Therefore, by terminating a child, that will minimize all such issues. Is
your assumption that every child that is unwanted or unplanned turns out to be a failure, or is there a possibility that these people can succeed in life?
Can you rephrase your statement?
Is there a possibility that those same unwanted or unplanned children can either be successful or a failure?
No.
And there goes time. We shall have the opposer's rebuttal by student number 2. That shall be 2 minutes. You may commence.
Okay. The problem we have with opposition team is that they assume in the first instance that there is something called an unwanted pregnancy. There is something called an unplanned pregnancy. So in this instance, we come here as affirmers to tell you that we would like to ensure that in our context, in our society, that values life so much, that we create spaces where we prevent in instances, that we may ensure that these preventative measures are actually something that is pondered upon. Instead of us creating a society that believes life in most instances can be something that is regrettable, and that is problematic in a context where we believe that life should be valued. At a point in time in which they come here and they just ponder on the fact that they believe that children only become children when they are given birth is problematic, because for a child to be given birth, they actually have to be gestated, they have to be conceived. So at a point in time in which we come here and we prove to you the value of life, the fact that a woman goes through traumatic experience when she aborts a child, it then becomes problematic for us to come and take their notion on the sense that they're saying it does not matter, we don't value them, because their assumption is that every child that is unwanted turns out to be problematic, turns out to be a street kid, which is problematic because we have evidently people like Oprah Winfrey, people like the Robert Mugabes, people like you name it, that have continuously become successful in life despite the fact that their parents wanted them. In most instances, the people that we see that actually partake in risky behavior or partake in unsafe abortions are the people that are afraid of the same society. At a point in time in which we ensure that these individuals are clearly incorporated into the society and are showed that abortion is not an issue that should continuously be perpetuated, because at the end of the day, the value of life is something that is sacrosanct in an African context. And that is something that they forget on their side of the bench today, because they do not understand that life is something that is very important in an African context and something that they do not engage today.
The affirmative rebuttal shall commence right now by student number 2. That too is 2 minutes. You may start.
Clearly, the affirmers do not understand the notion at hand. Now, my noble audience, need I remind them, the notion states that abortion itself is on-demand agenda, as seen undercover. Now, what they had to tell us was whether abortion, which is on the rise currently, is a sin. Apparently, they failed to do that, meaning no debate whatsoever. Now, my noble audience, allow me to account, or rather rebut the only point that they had, which is valuing life. Now, clearly, even this only point flew in the face of the facts, and they were drowning in their own confusion, my noble audience, because I can recall even when during birth, once the child is born, that is when the doctors ask, is the child alive or not? Now, my noble audience, clearly showing that life begins at birth. Now, having cracked all their bones, my noble audience, I'm going to move on also to all the misunderstandings and proof of under-information that they showed in this debate. My noble audience, when asked whether to save the child or the embryo, they talked about protecting life. Now my question is, whose life are we protecting at what cost? Now my noble audience, even in this era where we now have professional abortions taking place, professional abortion is costing at least $350 in Zimbabwe, which is probably more than the fee that is paid at giving birth. So clearly abortion is not a reactive measure, but a preventative measure. Yes, we wanted the baby, but now we cannot afford to pay for giving birth, my noble audience. Now, moving on, my noble audience, we are also saying that they also failed to account for the fact that abortion can now be done safely. They also failed to account for the fact that abortion is no longer under the covers, my noble audience. If it was still undercover, we wouldn't be talking about it right now. But the fact that we are talking about it today shows that it is now over the covers. Now, my noble audience, we need to acknowledge this delegation for looking at agency, accountability, and validity. Thank you.
My noble audience, I've been drinking quite a bit of water, and at this rate I may become a camel. The opposers shall give their closing remarks by student number 1 for 1 minute and 30 seconds. That starts now.
Ladies and gentlemen, abortion is indeed on demand, and it is not an evil act, but rather it is not even happening secretly. We are saying 95% of the women who are affected by mental illness is due to the fact that they were refused to undertake abortion. According to the hashtag unsafe abortion, it was clear that the lady who was interviewed couldn't afford to have a safe abortion method. Thereby, she ended up going to an unsafe abortion. Therefore, it's clear, ladies and gentlemen, that abortion is really on demand, and ladies requires this. And also, taking note to this, a contraceptive, Depo-Provera, can prevent fertilization and ovulation, but if fertilization occurs, it can abort. But ladies and gentlemen, my point is that the same way that the government acted in 1981 on Depo must be the same way the government must act on the issue of abortion, by initiating doctors and expertise who can work and act upon abortion, who can allow those who require abortion to take place. Therefore, this can prevent the issue of unsafe abortion. In conclusion, we are saying, as the non-affirmative side, abortion is a rise. Personhood begins at birth, and we can justify ourselves by saying abortion is there, but we are here to know that doctors must come into action to act upon such by preventing unsafe abortion.
And the affirmative closing remarks by student number 1 shall commence now at 1 minute and 30 seconds. Your time is now.
Panel, currently the Alabama state in the United States is revisiting their revisiting their abortion law. Why? Because they want to make it more restrictive. Because it has been seen that this pro-choice agenda, this abortion agenda, is really on demand for people who have had pregnancies that are unacceptable, for people who have indulged, especially in promiscuous behaviors. Because rarely do you find married women, people who have sex in the confines of what's acceptable in society, requiring abortions because they know that their children are acceptable. But we think we live in a context where even if you have a child and you can't keep the child, you can give them up for adoption, you can send them to homes. We think in such a context, the abortion agenda cannot be justified, because from our side, we've already told you, we'd rather give the child a right to live, and even if you can't keep them, send them to a foster home, give them a right to live, and also exercise the choices that as a woman you also want to exercise today. What we regret about abortion is that it even prevents life from starting. It even takes away choices before the person has a choice. We think abortion takes away every other right, because every other right that we scream of today, including bodily autonomy, only come if you have a life and if your life has been safeguarded. So I think the government should ensure that life is preserved. Even if you can't keep the child, we already have measures that will ensure that you can give up your child. If you don't want a child, we already have condoms, we have Depo. You can prevent. What we are arguing against is people at the end of the day.
That's what we're arguing against. We're arguing against. Well, they said there would be a heat wave. They were talking about this debate, I presume, and it has been a very insightful. And thank you very much, Chinhoyi University of Technology and Midland State University, for this engagement, which has really kept us on our toes. When we return, it shall be the Battle of Zimbabwe. Is it Great Zimbabwe University or is it University of Zimbabwe? Stay tuned.